Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 5th anniversary of the Transformative Justice Coalition. It has been 5 years since the Transformative Justice Coalition started. And let me tell you, Transformative Justice Coalition, I can't say they're breaking ground, but I can say they're burning a path. And it's a path to voter output for people to have access to the voting boxes and the voter access throughout America. And they have just done a tremendous job. My name is Daryl Jones. I'm an attorney. I'm also happen to be the board chair for the Transformative Justice Coalition. I want to welcome you here this evening for this evening's celebration, as well as anniversary of the Transformative Justice Coalition. One of the things that I am truly excited about is what the Transformative Justice in America is working on now, today, right here, what this program is about. This program that you are about to witness is a program about the past, it's a program about the present, and it's a program about the future. It all is embodied here in this program. The one thing that makes this program really special in my mind, this Black History Month program, is that what we are lifting up here, what we are lifting up tonight, is the family of Ahmaud Arbery. Folks often ask the question, are you just going to hold a vigil because something has happened to someone? Well, folks, the family of Ahmaud Arbery has that answer for you. They are living the example. They are showing you what can be done when you're given a very horrific situation. Today marks the 1-year mark of the killing of Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia. And, I think appropriately today, in Brunswick, Georgia, as Barbara Arnwine and I were speaking with Marcus Arbery, the father of Ahmaud, a little earlier today. They had an unveiling of a mural in Brunswick of Ahmaud Arbery, and the family was there for this unveiling. That was followed by a run that they did of 2.23 miles, marking the day that Ahmaud was killed. And that will be followed by a candlelight vigil. And they will be joining us this evening to talk about what it is that they've experienced and what it is that they're doing and where they are right now as a family unit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome to this Black History Month program. I am hopeful that you will find it as substantive and as meaningful as I believe it has been constructed to be. It's my pleasure now to introduce to everyone. For most people, she doesn't need an introduction, but I'll do it nonetheless. She is the founder as well as the convener of the Transformative Justice Coalition. She was I consider her the election protection person of America. She certainly is America's voting rights champion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you the 25-year warrior from the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, the person who created the term election protection and has created the Transformative Justice Coalition to live up to that mark, Barbara Arnwine. Barbara, welcome.
Well, thank you, Daryl Jones. Thank you for being just a visionary leader of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Leadership is everything, everybody, but it's also heart, courage, boldness, creativity, vision. And Daryl has been so enriched with every one of those aspects. And it is a pleasure and an honor to work with him and what I call the mighty TJC board. The Transformative Justice Coalition board is mighty and powerful. You're going to hear from Diane Wilkerson later on in the program. She's one of our many great leaders, and I'm just proud of all the hard work. But on this program tonight, you're going to hear from others who are what we call our partners. So you're going to hear from Reverend Todd Urey very soon to do the invocation, the opening prayer. He is from the Rainbow Push Coalition. Yes, the mighty Reverend Jesse Jackson, Lewis Jackson's coalition, and they have been our partners. And we're going to talk when I give my speech later. I will talk about some of the work that we did in 2020 together and some of the other work. But I want to say, Daryl, What an evening this is. It's something we've been working on ever since we met the Arbery family in November. God has blessed us to be there, to work side by side with this amazing, bold, courageous family. Oh, you have no clue how incredibly powerful they are. And I'm so honored that we are able to say to the nation today that on this day, like during November and December and January, we were all Georgia. On this day, we are all Ahmaud Arbery's family.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And it's my pleasure now to introduce to everyone for our opening prayer, Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary. Reverend Yeary is the pastor at Douglas Memorial Community Church in my hometown in Baltimore, Maryland. And just a wonderful person. They say you only meet a stranger once. Well, Reverend Yeary is like a brother right now. We've met several times. He's well beyond being a stranger. Reverend Yeary, if you would please bless us with the opening prayer.
Good evening, Daryl Jones, and to Barbara Arnwine, my brother and sister in this work, to all of you gathering tonight. Before I pray, let me certainly bring you greetings from our leader, the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson Sr., who for over 60 years now has been in the struggle. And as he continues to lead from rehabilitation after having had surgery recently, we continue to keep him in prayer even as he keeps us engaged. And so we celebrate with you tonight. He sends his well wishes, and he wants you to know that he is certainly still very much supportive and grateful for the 5 years of tremendous work that the Transformative Justice Coalition has done and continues to do. So he sends his regards and he sends his appreciation. Now let's get to it and let us pray. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might keep us forever in the light. Keep us, we ask and we pray. Gracious and loving God, tonight we come at the beginning of Black History Month, remembering, listening, feeling, reminded that we still live in our two-ness, that place of double consciousness that W.E.B. Du Bois talked about. We come partly to celebrate 5 years of tremendous work of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Barbara Arnwine, Daryl Jones, all of their partners. We thank you for what you continue to do with them and through them as your vessel of justice and liberation. We also come remembering one who has become a martyr, not because of his faith, but because of his skin color.
My.
We remember Ahmaud Arbery tonight. We recognize that his life was taken before it had even reached its prime. Hatred that continues to boil over in this country rose up on that day, and the efforts to conspire to keep his death a particular kind of secret was underway. But you who see all things have allowed us to come together tonight in a show of solidarity, advocates, legislators, people of faith and goodwill, to declare that Ahmaud has not died in vain. So tonight we come together recommitting ourselves to the cause and the call of justice, that this work will not cease until righteousness rolls down like water and justice like a mighty stream. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered, and yet we keep walking. Inspire our hearts tonight. Give our minds clarity tonight. Refresh and replenish the energy in our bodies, that we will continue to do justice even through the darkness of night. We bless you and we thank you for the privilege of service and the call to justice. And we ask that you will continue to guide our feet until we reach that place called glory. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. We'll now have
Hello, my name is Raphael.
we'll now have Lift Every Voice and Sing. It's a viola tribute to Elijah McClain. As many of you will recall, Elijah McClain was the young man who was killed, and I believe it was yesterday that the city there in Aurora recognized that they had no probable cause to do anything that they did to young Elijah McClain. You know, it's a fitting tribute, I think, that for this Black History Month, that we have our Lift Every Voice and Sing played on the viola by a young man by the name of Raphael Coley. Raphael is part of the Milwaukee Youth Symphony Orchestra. He was one of their solo performers in 2015, was the National Federation of Music solo performer, awarded that, and just an outstanding young man and a young person all around. Raphael, you ready?
Hello, my name is Raphael. I will be playing Lift Your Voice and Sing as a tribute to Elijah McClain.
So much.
Hello, my name.
And just to let everyone know, Raphael had ordered the sheet music, has taught himself to play Lift Every Voice and Sing. There was no coaching with it. He practiced and he forced himself to learn how to do it. It's my pleasure to now reintroduce Barbara Arnwine to bring us some information with regards to the explanation of all this voter suppression stuff and what we're dealing with across the United States here. Barbara?
Yes. Once again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for watching literally from all over the country. We were just so proud of all of you. We saw, all of you taking your tickets, but also we just knew about everybody who was tweeting and texting and Facebooking and doing everything to spread the word. Thank you. And thank you for being here. We're just so grateful and we're just so honored by all our wonderful artists who have joined us and by our amazing speakers. What a night we're in for. But we're here because we are dealing with before there was something called COVID-19, before there was the coronavirus, we already had pandemics occurring in our country. Those pandemics were the pandemic of racism. That pandemic has been endemic to this country since its inception, with the Native American land theft and, massacres and everything else that took the Native American population from 25 million when Europeans came here to less than 5 million today. These are the realities of what, we dealt with. And then of course we have the reality of slavery, but all of this was built on a hierarchy of racial values where certain people were presumed that they, because of their race, that somehow they were superior to others. So white supremacy has, built what we call this white structural racism reality that we operate in. But the good news is that from the beginning, there's always been people who are willing to fight for justice, people who believe that regardless of what the dominant system may be, that justice was imperative and that there could not be anything but, this fight. So we've had these countervailing dynamics in our society. So that's the first pandemic, was the continuing and escalating pandemic of racism, because we had an administration that really did foment racial division, racial discord, and white supremacy. We had that problem. We have to be honest about it. This is not being partisan. It's just what that administration stood for. And that's why so many of us were determined to do good work to make sure that democracy always prevails. The second pandemic we had was a pandemic of police violence. We were dealing with, the ugliness of, police killings around the country. Over 1,000, plus a year, and too many of those being African Americans, too many of those being people who had mental illness or other, disabilities. Too many of those being people who are unarmed and pose no threat. Too many of them being young and women and too many. And so we already had this pandemic going on. And and the real problems, not only of police violence, but that violence is only indicative of the injustices in our criminal injustice system. And so we had that pandemic. And the third pandemic we had was one of voter suppression. Yes, folks, we are in the 10th year. Did you hear me? The 10th year of active voter suppression. This pandemic that voter suppression that we are confronting right now started in 2011. I'm not saying it was the first time it ever started, because voter suppression goes all the way back throughout the history of this nation. But I'm talking about the modern era. After the 2010 midterm election, when too many people had voted in Barack Obama, did not understand what that meant, how this combobulating that was to a whole lot of folks who believed that this was a white nation and couldn't take it, and that they started plotting and planning. And in 2011, when people didn't show up for the midterm elections, we had the pandemic of voter suppression began to spread all over this nation. And I issued something called the Map of Shame in April of 2011 and said, people, look, 40 states, 100 pieces of voter suppression legislation. We got to take this seriously. And a whole lot of people said, hush, don't you dare talk about that. We're in a different era. You can't be talking about these issues. But of course, once the Shelby case happened in 2013 and we lost, the coverage formula that made Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act so powerful, then people started worrying and started seeing all of a sudden how this vicious voter suppression now was able to prevail without any checks. So what we have been doing is that, when the Transformative Justice Coalition was created, our first mission was to work on voting rights. Under Daryl Jones's leadership in 2019, everybody was saying, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about the elections coming up for 2020? How are we gonna make sure that what happened in 2016, where we saw massive voter suppression, massive, 2 million less Black votes counted than in 2012. People said, well, what are we gonna do? And Daryl Jones stepped up in December of 2019 and said, with his brilliance and vision, that we're gonna march to the ballot box. And he was so right. And he helped to create this program. And what I want people to know is that in, we were talking about marching, and then came COVID-19 and, the early, late winter, early spring of 2020. And we knew at that point that we had to do something different. And so we created what became the votercades. And we did 55 votercades, 31 of them in 13 states around the country. And we did in Georgia 24 in that short period between November 3rd and January the 5th. And Daryl Jones, was the inventive beauty who created this incredible, gorgeous program. Now, one thing, folks, in 2020, we saw a historic turnout. Why? Because our groups got out there and we did the hard work. We taught people how to use absentee ballots. We taught people how to use mail-in ballots. We taught people what a drop box was. We taught states how to get drop boxes, how to use and place them around. We taught states how to build satellite and open satellite offices. And we also said to the nation, early vote early. That's the answer to a COVID era, is vote early. And the second thing we said to the nation was, with the youth SPS attack that was done by DeJoy and his minions, we told people, you gotta vote early because we can't rely on the Postal Service. And some folks said, hey, I'm just gonna go vote in person. We said, well, you gotta vote safe. And so we raised over millions of dollars to give PPE to people in various cities so that they could vote safely in person. So those are just some of the things we did, but let's be honest. Success has consequences. People say elections have consequences, yes, but success has consequences. And our success and having a historic turnout of African-American voters, and historic turnout of Latino voters, a historic turnout of Native American voters, and historic turnout of youth voters, Asian voters, meant that people said, that we can have. So what we are now seeing post Georgia's amazing senatorial success is we are now seeing what? A backlash. We're seeing a rise of a new wave of voter suppressions. 166 plus and growing bills have been introduced in 33 states. And what do they want to do? They want to get rid of early voting. What do they want to do? They want to get rid of drop boxes. What do they want to do? They want to get rid of absentee balloting. What do they want to do? They want to make it harder for people to vote. What do they want to do? In Georgia, they're actually talking about giving the Secretary of State the power to take over local boards of elections. And who do they talk about as their number one target? Fulton County. What is unique about Fulton County? We know what's unique about it. African Americans, where 93% of all the African Americans turned out and voted in the Senate runoff election. So we are seeing this. So the question to all of us tonight is, what do we do? The good news is that we're here to organize. We're here to do the hard work, just like we did the hard work to turn out a historic turnout in this country. We can beat back voter suppression. And we're smart enough to learn how to navigate, how to overcome it. We know what to do because they try to block us one way, we create a different way of getting our success done. So I just want to say to people, don't let this program be your only connection with the Transformative Justice Coalition. Go to tjcoalition.org and become part of us. Sign up to become part of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Sign up to be given over at votingrightsalliance.org. Sign up to become part of our many committees that will be out there working in the states, because we will not sit back and allow not after all the sacrifices of Harriet, Sojourner, Satima, oh my goodness, Ella Baker, all the people, Frederick Douglass, oh my goodness, everybody who has fought and opened these doors, Dr. King, Coretta, all the people who have fought over the ages. You think we're gonna sit back? Cesar Chavez? No, we're there. We know the work that only we can do because we live in this moment. We're called upon to manifest ourselves in the fight for justice, because one thing has always been clear, is that racism and justice and democracy are all interconnected. And only when you're rid of racism, only when you're rid of that do you then get rid of injustice, so you can have justice, and democracy can't flourish without justice. So everybody join us in this fight. Go to the Voting Rights Alliance, read the 61 forms of voter suppression, find out about how you can help do what Diane Wilkerson did, where they had the phone bank that reached over 500,000 people just in Georgia, where we did the postcards, where we reached over 562,000 households just in Georgia, not to talk about all the other things that we've done. So, the fight's not over, the fight is engaged, but we are there to weaponize, to do what is necessary to win, because we know for every person who turned out on January 6th and tried to prevent democracy, that there are millions of us who are committed to democracy. So Daryl, with those words, I hope that I've given people a sense of what the fight looks like right now, and why we are convening, and why we need their ongoing engagement and support. So thank you so much for letting me have a word.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much for all that you do and all that you mean to our country in fighting for voting rights. Sometimes people ask the question, why are y'all talking about voting rights? This is supposed to be about Ahmaud Arbery. This is not supposed to be about voting rights. Well, let me just share a little quip with you as we begin to transition to our next speaker. One of the things that happened with the Ahmaud Arbery family, when Barbara and I were down there and had the opportunity to speak with them, is that members of that family had not voted in their entire lives. 53, some were 53, 58, had never voted. Then came the killing of Ahmaud Arbery. Then came the cover-up by the prosecutor in the county where it occurred. Then came the lies from the police officers that were involved in the killing, involved in investigating the killing. Following that, the Ahmaud Arbery's family got involved in politics. They got involved because they realized that the prosecutor was not serving their interests, had misled them, and they had been lied to. They petitioned, because it was too late for anyone else to just write in and become a candidate. They had to petition in order to get on the ballot to be able to run. And so they worked with someone there, and the person petitioned and was able to get the thousands of signatures necessary to get onto the ballot. But Ahmaud Arbery's family didn't stop there. They circled around this candidate, they worked with this candidate, and for the first time in the history of Glenn County, Georgia, an incumbent prosecutor was defeated. That was the power of the vote. That was the power of the community. They didn't do it just to do it. They did it for the future, because they now realize they got it. The light went off. We need to protect our future. We need to protect our future now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you someone who I feel comfortable saying that our future is in his hands. You ask me why I feel comfortable, Barbara? I'll tell you why I feel comfortable. Kingston Mills here is a 7th grader coming out of Newton, Massachusetts, over at Charles E. Brown Middle School. But that's not why I feel so comfortable. Here's why I feel so comfortable. I'm going to put it in his words. He was speaking before a city council there in Massachusetts, and he said, and I quote, "What I do have is the knowledge and belief of what is right. And I know that beating, slaughtering, and ultimately stealing one's property is not just. Christopher Columbus represents the idea of white supremacy, end quote. He was talking about why it should be called Indigenous Peoples Day rather than Columbus Day. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to everybody my new friend, Kingston Mills. Kingston.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kingston Devon Mills. I'm 12 years old, and I'm speaking to you from Boston, Massachusetts. I want to first thank the Transformative Justice Coalition for allowing me to be a part of this special event and wish you a happy 5th anniversary. This evening is about Ahmaud Arbery. I want to thank the Arbery family for allowing me to be a part of this event. Some of you may be thinking, what does a 12-year-old have to say? Well, I can start by showing you what I was doing on his birthday last year, May 8th. I was running 2.23 miles for Ahmaud. Long before I could ever imagine I would be a part of this historic event. What I have is my voice is my power. When a local popular restaurant owner called a Black woman the N-word and the community protested to shut them down, I knew I had to do something. Right after my basketball practice, I went to join the protest, where ironically, the restaurant was right across from the park where I took my 2.23 mile run in honor of Ahmaud a few months earlier. What I have is my voice is my power. I didn't just start using my voice. When I was 6 years old, I went to Catholic school. The principal called my father because I told the class that Jesus was Black. The teacher asked me where I got that from. So I told her, the Bible says his hair was like wool and skin was bronze. That sounded Black to me. I asked my grandmother that night, am I in trouble? And she said, no, honey, the world is in trouble because they're not ready for you. What I have is my voice is my power. In October of 2020, when my town's Human Rights Commission held a public hearing on whether to change the Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, I testified in favor of that change. I argued that it's time to teach the truth about American history. The vote passed in favor of the change, and starting in 2021, the town will celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day on the second Monday of October. What I have is my voice, and my voice is my power. As the only Black kid in my 6th grade history class, I didn't appreciate that our lesson on Africa consisted of all negative images of Black people. Babies with no shoes on, holding their hands like they were begging for food as rice was being poured on them. I asked to speak to the teacher outside in the hallway because the classroom was loud and I wanted him to really hear what I had to say. I told him what I know about Africa, the true history. I told him about Mansa Musa, the richest man to ever live, the kings and queens, the scientists, the architects, and I needed him to understand that Africa was the richest continent on earth with all of its diamonds, minerals, and natural resources. His response was not satisfactory to me. I will come back to this moment later. What I have is my voice, and my voice is my power. During the last week of school in June of 2020, we were completely remote by then, and the teacher allowed us to pick our own nickname for our Zoom calls. I chose I Can't Breathe. I did that in honor of George Floyd. With no discussion, my teacher made a statement that whoever chose this name, I Can't Breathe, this is not the time for this, and he kicked me out of the class. This was actually the same history teacher who I had spoken to earlier in the year about his negative teachings of Africa. I protested this decision to the principal and superintendent of schools. The teacher ended up having to make a public apology to me in front of the entire class, and he revealed that he had taken my advice about showing more positive and true images of Africa. After my parents and I spoke to the superintendent of schools, they decided to take my advice and use the new African curriculum that I helped influence for all 10,000 middle school students in the district. What I have is my voice, and my voice is my power. I tell you all these stories because as a young Black man, my life is a testament to those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. like Ahmaud Arbery, Rashard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and too many more. I speak because of you. I fight because of you. Your lives will not be in vain. From thousands of miles away, I will continue to use my voice to speak for what is right. What I have is my voice. I use my voice, and my voice is my power. Thank you, Arbery family, and thank you, Transformative Justice Coalition, and happy 5th anniversary. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I'm trying to compose myself.
Yes.
I tried to warn you all that it was coming. It came, it went. And if you didn't get on that train, you need to hit rewind and figure out how you missed it. Thank you, Kingston, for bringing that powerful, powerful words, those powerful words, man. I appreciate that. And when I say that our future is bright, I really do mean that Kingston is an epitome of the brightness of the future of the Black and brown community and the people of color. Thank you so much, Kingston.
Thank you, Son. Thank you.
Beautiful.
You know, one of the interesting things that has happened in the last 2 years or so has been this transformation that has occurred politically that has just shaken up the landscape throughout the United States. And it happened in a place that I never thought it would happen. And that was in St. Louis, Missouri. And in St. Louis, Missouri, what happened there was that for the first time in Missouri's history, they elected an African-American woman to Congress. She is the first African-American woman elected to Congress out of Missouri. She ousted a 20-year incumbent to win that position. Ladies and gentlemen, in the person of Representative Cori Bush, this is a lady who has, who just, I think, personifies the pursuit of excellence. She's gone from homeless to Congress, and she's not forgetting her roots. She's not forgetting anyone that she's encountered along the way. She's bringing them all with her. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have some remarks by the distinguished member of Congress, Congresswoman Cori Bush.
Hello, and thank you to the Transformative Justice Coalition for bringing us together for this Black History Month forum in Ahmaud Arbery's memory. I am so grateful to you all for creating this space, as well as for your nationwide voter education and mobilization campaign in 2020 and beyond. Let me begin by extending my love to Ahmaud's parents, to his aunts and his uncles, to every person who knew and loved him, and to all of us who continue to mourn his lynching exactly 1 year after he was harassed and brutally executed while out on a jog for existing while Black in an America that refuses to eradicate systemic white supremacist violence. 1 year on, we wrap our arms around Ahmaud's family and loved ones who had to wait 74 days for the known suspects responsible for his murder to begin facing any kind of accountability. And we will never forget that it wasn't until the public release of a video documenting his haunting lynching, a video that the prosecuting attorney's office had in its possession for months, that any significant actions were taken to hold the men involved accountable. Today, we reiterate our outrage at a criminal legal system that treats Black life with wanton disregard. We reiterate our outrage at the continuation of white supremacy in this nation that saw vigilantes take the life of a 25-year-old young Ahmaud Arbery last year. We also reiterate our gratitude for organizations like TJC that are doing the deep work to engage Black and other voters of color, whose voices and engagement are our greatest hope for transforming our American legal system into one of accountability, healing, and true justice. We do the work to expand the vote because we know lives depend on it, and because we know that we need an America that jumps into action before Ahmaud is ever harassed or murdered, not 74 days after. The right to vote is a sacred instrument for change for communities like ours. And the work to protect and expand that right is as important in 2021 as it has ever been. Those who are invested in a white supremacist status quo know that our vote is our power. And that is why they do everything they can to keep us from ever casting our ballots. Throughout American history, Black people, especially Black women, fought and bled for the right to be acknowledged by our democracy, to have the chance to make our voices heard at the ballot box. In the 1920s, Mary McLeod Bethune faced threats on her life from the KKK to teach Black men how to pass the literacy test, even though she herself was not allowed to vote. In March of 1965, Amelia Boynton was beaten unconscious by the police on the Edmund Pettus Bridge alongside hundreds of others before she ever had the right to cast a ballot. For the Black men who could vote, poll taxes and literacy tests stood in their way from ever having their voices heard. It took decades upon decades of selfless organizing that cost some people their lives to get us to the passage of the Voting Rights Act. On Sunday, we remembered the civil rights giant John Lewis on what would have been his 81st birthday. And it is in his name and memory that we will work hard to pass H.R. 4, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, to restore the critical protections he marched and bled for so that Black people could fully realize our right to vote. Let's be clear that the legacy of Jim Crow era policies was responsible for rampant voter suppression in the 2020 election. Polling places were closed in Black and brown neighborhoods, forcing people to stand in line for hours during a pandemic that has disproportionately claimed the lives of Black and brown people. Black and brown and indigenous voters had to wait longer on average than their white counterparts. There was police intimidation, felony disenfranchisement, gerrymandering, voter roll purges, photo ID laws, and an attempt to dismantle the United States Postal Service. There was even a concerted effort by members of Congress to overturn the election because they didn't want Black, brown, and indigenous votes to count. But what we saw in 2020 was a mass movement that included the leadership of groups like TJC that said, in Ahmaud Arbery's name, in George Floyd's name, in Breonna Taylor's name, we must leverage our power at the ballot box to transform our system into one that is just. The result was a historic surge in voter registration during the Black Lives Matter protests over the last year. It was the registration of more than 1 million people nationwide in the first 2 weeks of June. It was activists posting QR codes on their signs and telling people to vote. Because the fight for the dignity and livelihood of Black people recognizes that there is a coordinated effort to disenfranchise Black, brown, and indigenous voters, to disenfranchise all of us. The forces of white supremacy in this country wanted to silence our voices. And we are organizing like our lives depend on it to say no more. We are organizing to say we need long overdue reforms and bills like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Of course, we need to ban chokeholds and to stop the no-knock warrants and combat racial profiling and establish new standards for policing. Yes, we need to do all of that, and we need to do it now. But in Ahmaud's memory, 1 year after his brutal murder, we also say we need more than that. We declare that Black, Brown, and Indigenous voters are organizing as hard as we've ever organized before, because we also need a new vision for our community's safety that ends mass incarceration and criminalization, and invests federal dollars into policing alternatives and meeting our community's needs, and meeting those needs right now. We need to divest federal resources from incarceration and policing and in the deep harms of the criminal legal system. We need to invest in new approaches to community safety by allocating resources to build healthy, sustainable, and equitable communities for all. And finally, we need to hold political leaders accountable and enhance self-determination for Black communities and for all communities of color that have experienced the disproportionate harm of racist, white supremacist violence. By organizing and expanding our access to the vote and transforming our democracy, we will implement reparations for Black people and for survivors of white supremacist and police violence and their families. In Ahmaud's memory, we recommit ourselves to this work today. We pledge to march on, and we express our gratitude to TJC and to the organizers all across our country who will lead us to a more just America. Thank you.
Your Representative Cori Bush. You know, ladies and gentlemen, one of the interesting things that I find is that when we start talking about the disenfranchisement of Black and Brown voters, we're not talking about something that just happened. When we start talking about the mistreatment of Black and Brown and people of color, we're not talking about something that just started. When we talk about the terrorism that happens on the Capitol or happens throughout the country, this is something that goes back into this country's history, deep back. So when Congresswoman Bush speaks about the coordinated effort to disenfranchise Black and Brown voters, she's talking about something that's not simply happening right now, but something that has been historic, has been systemic, and happening in the United States. And if you look around, we know that, and help me out here, Barbara, we know that in some 33 different states, we have nearly 168 pieces of legislation that have been introduced in 2021 to try to slow down or stop Black, Brown, and the people of color community from voting. That's today's reality.
That's
But,
right.
if we wind it back, and I can almost hear Fannie Lou Hamer saying it. I can almost hear her addressing these very same issues.
Yes.
These very same issues with the Freedom Democratic Party that she took and wanted to have seated. I can hear the issues. I can hear Fannie Lou Hamer talking about her trying to register voters, taking herself on down there to register to vote, her living on the property, renting out the home where her family had served as slaves. And after trying to register to vote, coming back home and having the former master of that property tell her, you got to leave. You can't stay here. Your home is no longer here. You got to get out. You got to go. But she didn't stop there. She continued pushing on. Ladies and gentlemen, you're wondering if I'm just talking out the side of my neck. No, I'm not. I tell you what, let's let Fannie Lou Hamer speak for herself. Can we hear Fannie Lou Hamer?
Mississippi is still a very rough place. People is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out. Mississippi is still a very rough place. People is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. They can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this lead me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man. As we know, this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
My.
I don't know who could put it any clearer that Fannie Lou Hamer just did. And I can tell you, the feeling is that she could say that today and it would still be appropriate, on par with exactly what's happening in and across the United States of America. But one of the things that Fannie Lou Hamer said that just rings out, and I'm lifting up, remembering that our theme here is Ahmaud Arbery, white vigilantism, deadly policing, vote for justice. One of the things that Fannie Lou Hamer said really, really should be lifted up is that Mississippi was America's problem. And if they wanted to do something about it, they could do it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce, for some discussion and conversation, a lady who did something about it.
Oh, yes.
Who decided that she'd seen enough and that she'll take the wheel of the car. She'll show you how the policy should be in place. She'll show you what it looks like to be a representative of an inclusive community. She ran for the state's attorney's office in Chicago, Illinois, Cook County, won, ran again, won again, driving home the message that this will be a progressive policy, that we will have a policy in place that is representative of everyone that makes up Cook County, not just any particular section of Cook County. She is the first African-American woman to serve as the state's attorney in Cook County. Cook County is the second largest prosecutor's office in America. And if you're questioning me about this progressive label that people like to throw around, yeah, she is a progressive, but she's a progressive for the right reasons. She's a progressive to move society forward. She's a progressive to have everything equal and everyone to have an equal opportunity. Part of her theme when she ran for state's attorney in Cook County was rebuilding public trust. And that's what she's been doing. She's been rebuilding public trust, and her actions speak for her. Let me tell you, in Illinois, this week alone, the governor there just signed into law a new bill that eliminates the cash bail system so that the system is equal, levels it out. You don't get out based on your wealth. No, levels it out. And how many state's attorneys throughout the state of Illinois supported it? How many? How many? I'm not hearing you. There are 102. Let me help you out. There are 102 prosecutors in Illinois. There were 2 that supported it.
Oh,
One of them is our guest today in the person of my new friend, my mama's hometown person, Chicago State's Attorney Kim Foxx. Kim, welcome to the program.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Daryl, for having me. Thank you, Barbara. And what a somber occasion under which we gather, but also one of tremendous hope. Kingston has given me so much hope for our future, despite being in this what feels like a perpetual cycle of pain and abuse inflicted by a supremacist country that hasn't reckoned with itself. But what I know for sure is that with Kingston and his brothers and sisters on the line, we're going to make something happen in this country. So thank you for having me.
Sure, thank you. Barbara, would you like to start?
yes. You know, first of all, State's Attorney Kim Foxx, you're amazing.
Oh.
And you are so courageous, because people don't understand that oftentimes when you get in these jobs, people don't just embrace you and just say, oh, it's great to see you there. They don't respect you. You've had to fight so hard to advance your agenda. And we are so proud of you for standing up for justice. My first question to you: how did the news of Ahmaud Arbery's slaying, when you found out about it, how did it affect you?
I was horrified. And the truth is, I think we've become so used to hearing about things on social media that there's a numbness that happens. And when I heard that there, was this death, and you just have become so accustomed to Black death, you've become so accustomed, again, as Daryl said, this racial terror is not new. It's something that generations of Black folk have seen. And so even in 2020, it doesn't escape me that that's possible. It wasn't until I watched the video and it became abundantly clear that there is no explanation that could ever be provided, because we've seen death and then we've seen justification, we've seen mollification. You could not escape what you had seen. And as technology has changed, and we could only imagine the horrors of what happened to Emmett Till, because we saw him in the aftermath, to watch in real time a man be chased down and murdered before your eyes. It just was devastating. And all death in this way is devastating, but to watch it unfold before your own eyes, and how it ended,
Yes.
and to try to imagine the horror, the fear, you're with him in his last moments. And so it was, I don't know how one is expected to feel in that. And so it is, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Arbery family, who have been sharing this journey with America, so that we cannot pretend like we don't know that we have a problem, in the same way that Mamie Till did, because it was truly horrific.
Yes.
Sure. And State's Attorney, I wonder, you're the State's Attorney in America's second largest jurisdiction, second largest city as the prosecutor. And I'm just wondering, how important, what is the impact of having a State's Attorney that's attuned to the community of color?
It's incredibly important, which is why, again, I want to congratulate you all on your 5 years for the work and efforts that you've been doing.
I am the first African-American elected to this position. There was one, Cecil Partee was appointed back in 1989 when the former state's attorney got elected to mayor, and then he ran for office and lost. And here in Cook County, you know, we're much like the rest of the country where we have an overrepresentation of Black folks in our jails and prisons. The overrepresentation of people in the Black community, victims of violent crime. And it isn't even just that I'm Black. You know, I share a lot of background with the great Congresswoman who just spoke. You know, I'm Black, but I'm from the projects. I'm from Cabrini. You know, I'm the child of a single mom who dropped out of school, did what she could to care for me and my brother because she was a teenager. I know what it's like to have been the victim of violent crime, of sexual assault. I also know, and I have members in my family who have gone to prison, who have come out and have led productive lives. I know the complexities of the people who come into these systems. I am a lived experience. And so it's really critical that we have people in these elected positions where this isn't academic. This isn't people who are so far away from the issues dictating policies that don't impact them, but impact our communities. I know firsthand the devastation of the war on drugs. I know firsthand what disinvestment in communities look like. I know that violence doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. It is based on a set of conditions that have been rooted in systemic and institutional racism that have oppressed a community such that we see violence manifest itself, and that the answer isn't just an incarceration and punitiveness, it's investing in the things that we know communities need. And so, you know, having these elections and having people in these roles, and listen, most people, most Black folks, you talk about being the prosecutor, being in law enforcement, they rightfully are, you know, skeptical.
Yes.
Because the prosecutor for so long had been an extension of the systemic and institutional racism and the systems that it upheld. It has been our job to uphold those systems. So why would you want to work there? And what I say to most is that the power of the prosecutor to say, no, I'm not going to do that. The power of the prosecutor to say that I'm looking at ways that we can heal community and not be overly punitive. I understand the role of systemic racism, and so I'm going to dismantle some of that, requires that we are in these roles. And we need to have people who have those lived experiences in positions of policy so we can do better.
You know, Daryl has already alluded to the tragedy of how the family was lied to.
Mm-hmm.
And they told the family in the world that Ahmaud was killed during a home invasion. And that was just a lie. His body, his father pointed out, how can you have a home invasion and the body is shot in the street?
Mm-hmm.
And we knew it was a lie to begin with, that there was no quote home invasion, that he had gone into a construction site to get some water during his run. It was just a construction site. And think about it, if you're gonna steal from a construction site, what do? You better bring a truck or a car. You don't jog. I mean, what you gonna take? Pipes? I mean, what you gonna take? I mean, it was a ridiculous citizens quote arrest standard, but they lied. And then they lied about, they never, they wouldn't disclose that they had the tape. Then they lied, during the video, you could hear them, what do they tell the people? They tell the killers, the murderers, to go home and wash off the blood. They, all of these things that happened, as a prosecutor, when you heard about this, and remember, even when we got the tape, we didn't realize we didn't have the full tape. It was only until December, late December, that we actually saw the final 11 minutes of his dying, and where they did nothing, no help to him, nothing, just were laughing and talking while he's bleeding out. Woo! When you look at that, as a prosecutor, What do you think that should have happened here, and how do you hold prosecutors to a much higher standard?
You know, when I look at that as a prosecutor, my first thought is that we have a murder. This is a homicide. And so
Yes.
you take every measure that you would take with a homicide to secure the scene, to separate the suspects, to do an interrogation, to run the forensic test, whether it's on gunshot residue, to do a reenactment of the scene, to get and see how far apart someone was. Why was someone in the house but out on the road? There's this whole series of things that should have happened in this case if you were treating it like a homicide. But what you're describing and what it appeared was they had already justified that this man's death was not a homicide, was not a murder. And so then you will do the things and you will treat the suspect not like they're a suspect, but you're there, tell us what happened and we'll make the scenario fit for you. And the reality is that that's not new. You know, I came into office in 2016 after the murder of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald,
Oh
who
my
was
goodness.
a 17-year-old boy who was in the midst of a mental health episode, but was walking down the street with a knife, and the police converged and followed him for blocks with nothing. And Jason Van Dyke arrives on the scene and within 3 seconds jumps out and shoots this boy 16 times.
Oh.
And he had said that that Laquan was advancing towards him with the knife. And it wasn't until we saw the dash cam video that in fact, Laquan was walking away. But for 14 months, the prior state's attorney who held my seat fought to have that video kept in secret. For 14 months, the investigation dragged. And it was only because of the activism and the activists and the family that the video was finally released. And the day that the video was released, later that afternoon, the prosecutor brought charges. So this isn't surprising to me. I go back to the Fannie Lou Hamer quote. Like, we show ourselves often enough that video was a Chicago problem that America had seen. Yeah. And you're able to then turn your head away and you get an Ahmaud Arbery years later with a prosecutor who tried not to do her job because we don't hold to account. And I think being honest about the fact that there's a role for us to play, there's an accountability that we must have, that we cannot justify or treat people different because they look like us. We can't give the benefit of the doubt that there must have been something because Johnny wouldn't just shoot somebody. That is a homicide suspect. That is a murder suspect until proven otherwise. The benefit of the doubt should have been given to that man who lay dying in the street.
Yes.
The benefit of the doubt should have been given to his family, and they should have been treated with the dignity and the respect of someone who was the victim of a homicide. And that is the role of the prosecutor. We are not here to rubber stamp the role, the efforts of law enforcement. We're not here to justify what the murderer of Laquan McDonald did, what the murderer of George Floyd did, what the murderers of Breonna Taylor did. We don't seek to go try to make it right. We take the evidence as it is. And if we can prove it, then that's our obligation, is to go forth and prove it. And if we can't, we have to be straight up with the people that we serve about why we can't charge. There have been cases where it has broken my heart that I could not bring charges. But I am honest about what those limitations are with the law, with the evidence. But that's your obligation, is to set out and try to, on behalf of that person who has been killed, to put together a case that you can sustain in court.
My.
And State's Attorney Foxx, it's very interesting that when you start laying out what happened with Laquan McDonald, what happened with Elijah McClain, what happened with Ahmaud Arbery in this scenario. Now, I was a prosecutor when I first started out in the practice of law, and one of the things that was always important was the victims of crime and the victim's family of crime. Well, one of the things we know with regards to the Arbery family, and they will be joining us. They're having some technical issues, I've been told, but they are going to be joining us. One of the things that I found of interest in dealing with the Arbery family and talking to them, now Ahmaud Arbery was killed on February 23rd, 2020. Here we are, February 2021. The family received no grief counseling, received nothing from the state's attorney's office in terms of any type of counseling that the father or anyone else would have needed, or even inquired to see if they needed anything. And from my experience, I find that to be incredible. That should not happen. And I'm just wondering, from your experience as the prosecutor in the second largest jurisdiction in the country, when you have a victim of a murder, is the family provided some type of counseling? Are they given numbers to call? Is there something that's in place? What should happen?
What should happen is you would have an advocate on behalf of the family, what we have here in Cook County called, victim witness advocates, who will give you referrals if we can't provide services direct, referrals for grief counseling, referrals if you have, needs to help you with burial expenses. There's a whole litany of resources that people who are in these circumstances should be referred to, because as it's happening, the trauma of what is happening, the weight of what is happening, you need someone to help navigate you through that. Now, the choice to use those services should be that of the victim's family, but you should offer it. And again, nothing is new here. I remember watching as a prosecutor, a line prosecutor in the wake of the death of Trayvon Martin. And after the trial was over and the finding of not guilty, that prosecutor went straight to the cameras and did a press conference. And my first thought then was, why aren't you going to sit with the family, who must obviously be devastated that the man who killed their son is not going to be held accountable? But instead of doing that, that prosecutor went to the cameras. And so there's something about what happens related to Black death and the inability for some to see us in our whole humanity, that man was somebody's son, that he is the pride that I saw in Kingston's grandmother's eyes as she watched him speak. That Ahmaud Arbery was the pride of his family, that he was a person, his life mattered. And how the system responds to lives that matter would require you not to be taught how to be empathetic or sympathetic or a resource, that is instinctual. And so I think from the very beginning, in watching this case from afar, it has been a continual reaffirmation for those who don't believe in this system and doesn't believe that it cares for Black lives. And for me, an inspiration to do better, to check myself, to check my office, to make sure that we're training and teaching to ensure that we see the fullness and the humanity of everyone who comes before us.
Amen.
Barbara, do you have a follow-up?
Well, there's just so much. The cash money bail, that is something that around the country we're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Tell people why that's so important.
I'm so proud that here in Illinois, just yesterday, Governor Pritzker signed what we call the Safety Act that eliminates cash bail here in Illinois. And it's significant because people have to understand bail is supposed to ensure that you come back to court. And the only reason that you should be held pre-trial is if you're a threat to the public or a flight risk. And what happens for far too many people who have money, people who have means, are able to pay their way out of jail and await their trial at home. And people who are poor are having to sit and languish in jail for months and sometimes years because of their inability to pay. And one of the things that I think illustrates how horrible that cash bail system is I look at Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse is a young man who stands accused, he's not yet been found guilty, of murdering two protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in the wake of the shooting of Jacob Blake. Kyle Rittenhouse had a $2 million bond, and groups from across the country put together a GoFundMe and paid his way out. So Kyle Rittenhouse is out on the street right now because he could afford, someone paid his bond. And right now in jails across the country, people who have not been accused of murdering two people, people who've been accused of low-level nonviolent offenses but can't afford something as little as $100 are sitting in jail. And the system that is based on wealth and not based on risk disproportionately impacts poor people. And the truth is, not just poor people, we're talking about poor Black people. And so eliminating cash bail, where it's not based on your wealth or your access to cash, but on your risk to the public, is a civil rights issue. It is a making sure that our Constitution that says no excessive fines and fees is adhered to. So I'm really proud that Illinois is the first state to legislatively eliminate cash bail. And it is my hope that it spreads throughout the country, because it is a system that is inherently unfair.
And so, State's Attorney Foxx, when you talk about the no cash bail system that Illinois now has in place, if there is someone who stands accused of a significant crime, like Rittenhouse, like Kyle Rittenhouse was accused of a murder, what does that mean for a situation like that? Are they just held in jail, or how does the judge make a determination in the no cash bail world?
So now in Illinois, starting in 2023, the judge will have to look at the circumstances that brought you there. There'll be a risk assessment that is done that will look at your past history, look at the current offense. We'll have to make a determination. Are you a threat to someone? Are you a threat to the public? If so, rather than giving you some amount, I'm sure that the judge in Kenosha thought $2 million was a lot of money, and perhaps this man would not be able to afford it. Little did he know that this man would be, heralded by white nationalists and extremist groups who would put together a GoFundMe to pay him out. Rather than make an amount you think someone can't, we're holding you. If you are a threat, then you have to make, and we can't just do it indiscriminately. You have to make a record. You have to be able to identify what specifically is the threat that person causes, such that they cannot be released prior to trial. And so in the case of a Kyle Rittenhouse, I think based on the circumstances, a 17-year-old who crosses the border with a long arm, going to the trouble, was excited, had been in some of these chat groups, talking about, taking up arms, and goes and kills two others. To me, that suggests that you are a threat to public safety, and should not be released.
Outrageous. And one of the things we've been talking about on our radio show, it's been so disturbing, is about the treatment of the insurrectionists. These folks broke into the Capitol. They beat up police, yelling Blue Lives Matters with Blue Lives Matters flags. They beat the police with those. They yelled racist slurs at African-American US Capitol Police. They haunted the vice president shouting, "Hang Mike Pence." They tried to find Congress people to do bodily injury to them. They did all of these things, yet prosecutors are, out of the 800, only 250 have been charged. And the judges have been letting people go, on retreats to Mexico, get their favorite food.
Listen.
They've been treating them so differently than they treat African-American defendants and Latino and Native American defendants every day. When we see that dual, what we call it, the dual standards of the criminal and justice system, what can we do about that? How do we force, equality in treatment? How do we force these judges to stop looking at people of color and saying, throw the book at them? What has been some of your experiences and how to deal with this injustice?
I think you got to call it out. I think we have to stop pussyfooting around these issues. I think we have to call it out. I think Black people who've been through the criminal justice system know that you can't ask for some time to go on vacation. Or that you got your organic food, like, and I'm not suggesting that if someone has dietary issues that they can't be addressed, but the truth is this ain't it's hard for me to even answer with the sense of like, how do we do something about it? It's so absurd that we are even in this position because we know that this is not how the system works.
Unbelievable, unbelievable. And Daryl, you know, I mean, we've been looking at this every single day. It is the most telling. It's almost exposed how unjust our criminal justice system is. And it's just a wonderful reality to have someone like you, State's Attorney Kim Foxx, to be out there, to be doing this kind of fighting and leadership. I'm blessed that we have Aisha Brayboy here, who has, you know, stood up and is, you know, pushing also. And Diane, where Kingston is, has, you know, Rachel Rollins. And, you know, there are people we can call their names, thank God, because, you know, 10 years ago, we couldn't even do that. So it's so beautiful.
And those are my sisters. And so I'm so glad that you are lifting them up. But that speaks to when you say, what can we do?
Yes.
It's just that. It is elect people who have these lived experiences, elect people from our communities, and we then are able to like expand the network of what we're able to do, whether it's Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore, Rachel Rollins in Boston, Aramis Ayala, who, you know, refused to enforce the death penalty. She's the first Black woman state attorney in the whole state of Florida.
Yes.
We're able to take these issues on because we recognize the severity of a system that has treated our communities so poorly. And so voting, having access to the ballot, you said it, I won for a second time, largely on the strength of the communities from which I come, who said they refused to go back to the system we had before. And that only happens when we have ballot access and we have candidates who are unapologetic to the mission to serve their communities, even in the most difficult of circumstances.
Amen. And, you know, and Daryl, you know, I just think it's so important that we tell people, don't just vote for the top of the ticket, you know, vote for the full ballot. You know, think about sheriffs, right? Clerks of court, judges. Too many people don't have a clue who these judges are. You know, we need community groups to be watching them. You know, be active at the city council meetings. When that police contract comes up for negotiation, be there, right? There's so much, so we are, you know, just, you know, so happy that I believe I see the Ahmaud Arbery family joining us now. And we're just so, you know, so happy that everybody, you know, that you're doing what you're doing and that you're leading the way. The last thing before you go, you know, we just want to know, how do we support you? You know, how do we, because we know you've been under attack. We know that I mean, I saw that ugly press conference where all those police departments got together and they were trying to run you out of office, thinking that somehow, you know, the community would forget who you were. You know, how do we support our progressive prosecutors all over the country so that we can have more Kim Foxxes everywhere?
Well, that's a great question. You do it by like having access to opportunities like this, to hear, you know, me talk about what it is that we're trying to do. There's so much misinformation, disinformation. The truth of the matter is Black women prosecutors make up less than 1% of all elected prosecutors across the country. And so my mere presence is disruptive. It doesn't even have to be a policy initiative. If I'm in the room, somebody is mad. And so the way that we can continue to have that is to have support. You know, I've had rocky times in this office, and it has been the support of the people that I serve who continue to say that these are the issues that we care about, and we don't waver from that. Changing the criminal justice system is not going to happen overnight. We have to be bold. We can't, incremental change just isn't going to do it. Too many lives are on the line for that. And so when we take bold initiatives, when I'm out there pushing for the elimination of cash bail, the banning of chokeholds, when it looks like I'm doing things that are not traditional law enforcement, I need our community to stand up and say, that's what we sent her to do. And so when you see a podium full of people dressed in their finest coming out to get me, what I know is, in the full Chicago way, that you don't see how large my crew is. And so I need my crew to continue to show up and say that this is what we asked her to do, and support me when I do it.
Beautiful.
Well, State's Attorney Foxx, let me tell you, everyone that has been around me and the Transformative Justice Coalition knows I have a statement. And that statement is, once we become friends, you are a family. We're here for you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So whatever you need from us, do not hesitate to pick up the phone and call us, and we will be there. It's nothing but a 10-hour ride to drive to Chicago, or a 2-hour plane ride. And I think we get one of those hours back because of Central Standard Time. So, but let us know, and we will definitely be there. I did not want to let you go, however, without giving you the opportunity. I know that Ahmaud's dad and his family are now on this call or on the line. And I wasn't certain if you'd like to make a statement to them or say anything to them. This would be that opportunity.
Well, I appreciate it, Daryl. And Barbara, thank you for having me. I certainly want to say to the Arbery family that you are continually lifted in prayer, with my family, with my city, with my county, with our community. And as I said, coming on, I cannot imagine your grief, and a very public grief. But it is certainly my hope that his death is not in vain, that there will be accountability for the men who took him,
Yes.
from you, and that justice is a word that doesn't feel apropos, because justice would be Ahmaud being with you right now. So I certainly hope there is accountability, and I just want to extend my gratitude to you all for being unflinching in showing America what America is right now, and carrying on his banner and the legacy for those who are coming after, for Kingston to fight as a 12-year-old on behalf of your son, your family members' memory. He will live on in so many of us and so many of our children and generations to come, and that may not be solace right now. But I thank you, for your willingness to share your son and your son's memory with this country, to force us to be to be who we say we are. And so my heartfelt condolences to you all, and my gratitude to you as well.
Thank you so much, State's Attorney Foxx. Thank you so much. Thank you for agreeing to be here. Thank you for all that you represent. And thank you most of all for the difference that you make. Thank you. We wanted to pivot for a moment, and we want to go over to the next section of our program. We've had the opportunity to meet a new friend who now will be a lifelong friend in the person of Dr. Crystal Kirkendall. Dr. Kirkendall, not only does she simply hold 5 degrees and she's an author, but she was also a business executive. She's an attorney. She works with human resources as a consultant, was the executive director of the National Alliance of Black School Educators. But tonight, I believe that you're going to be truly, truly touched with the poem that she has written, Her Dream Deferred, in honor of all that's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Crystal Kirkendall.
Thank you so much, Daryl, and to Barbara and the entire TJC family. Thank you for having me. I cannot start this poem, however, without thanking those who have come on before me. I was moved by Reverend Yearly. I was truly touched by Kingston and Raphael. Certainly, my dear sister, Cori Bush, spoke volumes of truth. And my homie, State's Attorney Kim Foxx, thank you for all that you do. And to the Arbery family, I cannot even begin to tell you how my heart weeps for you. But let's go into our discussion. Her dream deferred. Langston Hughes first asked the question when he reminded us that unfulfilled aspirations will fester, rot, stink, explode, and die with no chance of restoration. But 100 years after Langston asked, history is still replete for deferments of Black hopes and dreams are smashed, dash, crash before crumbling in defeat. But Langston's question is still timely for those of us who are not in a doze, can surely see that 100 years later, hopes are still holes, doors are closed, injustice grows, and nobody knows as time goes the answer to the question that our dear brother Langston posed. What happens when her dream is deferred? For Black mothers weave dreams over every baby crib, but far too many know the anguish, the heartache, the vast emptiness that comes when dreams die and our children do not live. I was born and raised in Chicago on the far west and great south sides, but I was inspired, filled with desire, taught to aim higher, keep alive the fire, and in my race have genuine pride. My mother was a school crossing guard and daddy a veteran of the Second World War. Closed doors destroyed all their dreams. They died young, but in life they wanted so much more. And so they dreamed of better days and struggled and sacrificed and went through every long and dreary night, confident that if they deferred their dreams, their children's dreams would see daylight. And so I was always taught that Black women had accomplished so much, and therefore, all through my childhood, I was told to dream big and believe in miracles, keep the faith, and maybe my dreams would be good. I was taught that Black women weren't just beautiful, but strong, resilient, and exemplary. Mama said, you dream big, my child, and while you'll honor his, you'll make your her story. Justice delayed is justice denied, but it's not supposed to be that way for dreams. Mother said dreams, even if deferred, should still be realized. But so many Black youth were shaken when 4 girls in Birmingham were killed. Their dreams snuffed out, their parents wept. Just 8 years after white vigilantes slaughtered Emmett Till. For too many of our children and youth, there is no such thing as a natural death. What we've seen with many of our children and teens is hopelessness and an inability to focus. Many of them are simply afraid to dream. To the Arbery family and many mourning mothers, I truly feel your pain because I know what it feels like to bury an only son. But I also know the horror of having a 25-year-old husband murdered by a robber with a gun. But I have since discovered, and many others have also figured, that the hopes and dreams inside that angry boy died long before he pulled that trigger. Brothers and sisters, hopelessness, vigilantes, police brutality, injustice continue to cripple and strip away the dignity of too many of our men. Our children must not be deterred, their dreams not deferred. The killing of our youth and their dreams must end. But we do have more power. And when all is said and done, we must unite, renew the fight, combine our might, sustain voting rights. And with collective effort, this victory will be won. Our youth must be emboldened, their dreams made golden, and they must start holding the hand of the God who named them. They must be taught that there is a cost when they have gifts and dreams but cannot claim them. Black women have overcome genocide, racism, inequities, and unspeakable degradation. And yet, despite deferred dreams and the deaths of loved ones, there's been no diminution in our determination. Amen. For Ahmaud Arbery and countless other victims of vigilantes, police brutality, and horrific hate, we must not forget their names, but snuff out the stench of injustice and the smell of racism we must abate. For our youth who have lost hope and have no dreams, we must provide more education, reclaim our communities, and eradicate the anger, the rage, and the alienation. As merchants of hope, we must do more, for a life void of dream is truly dire. But we cannot be silent or complacent or remain sick and tired. For our future generations, they will be taught that even if they think they don't know how, their voices will be heard. They won't be deterred. Their dreams won't be deferred. We have to teach our children their time is right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kirkendall. It was awesome. Outstanding, outstanding, outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure at this point to introduce to everyone a family that is just the personification of grace, a family that's just the personification of determination, a family that is the personification of family, caring for one another, being with one another. When Barbara Arnwine and I were in Georgia, we had the opportunity to travel all over the state of Georgia. And the one trip, as a matter of fact, Barbara, why don't you tell the story, Barbara?
Well, God is great, and welcome, Arbery family. We know you've had a long day and a long weekend and a long year. And we want you to know that our hearts are with you today. God brought us together because we were in Georgia and doing a votercade in Brunswick. We had tried to connect with the family, did not succeed in the way that we had hoped to. And we were at Selden Park that the mighty Dana Beckman is one of the commissioners for. And she was helping us to, with the votercade, and we had our crowd come, our small group coming, and this truck passed us by and it came back after a while, and the lady driving the truck said, where is the polling site? I thought there was a polling site here. And Dana said, no, the polling site's over at another park. And then the lady said, well, what's going on here? And Dana said, you want to get out the car and talk to this lady over here. And we got to talking, and I realized after a couple minutes that I was talking to Diane Arbery Jackson. She is Ahmaud's oldest aunt. She is the matriarch. And she's been there side by side with her brother Marcus, the father of Ahmaud. And she's been there to do everything to help the community through these horrible COVID times, making sure people have food, and the family's just been there doing, working with that mighty 223 Foundation to provide so much service. You see, people, the beauty of the Arbery's is that Marcus fought for justice and would not stop until the charges were brought, the videos released, the charges were brought. But even in the midst of the pain of losing this beautiful young man, they still have been serving their community, stepping out on faith and love, and making sure people are fed, making sure people have energy, power, taking care of needs, making sure kids can go to school, to have, scholarships. This is a family worthy of the nation's embrace. And that's why we're so happy that the Arbery family is with us tonight. Everybody, wherever you are around the country, everybody on Facebook, everybody watching on WEAC Radio and ACT TV and everywhere, Twitter and all over the country. Let's welcome the Arbery family. Let's welcome the Arbery family.
So, and with that, we do welcome I see Marcus Arbery that's here. We're going to ask you to come off the mute. if you would.
There you go. There you go.
There.
Are you,
Hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Marcus. Yeah,
Right.
great hearing you and seeing you again. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just still struggling with things.
Yes.
And how has the day been? I know that you had the mural that was unveiled and the candlelight vigil.
Yeah. It's been a long day, man. It's been a long journey. And we still got a long way to go for justice. But we're going to get there because we ain't going nowhere. My family ain't going nowhere till we get justice.
And we appreciate that. And you know, as Barbara and I have told you on several occasions, you know, we're not behind you, we're not in front of you, but we're shoulder to shoulder with you throughout this entire struggle, all the way through. We'll be there. When the trial starts, we'll be right there beside you. We'll be right there with you. And, you know, we certainly want to certainly let you know that there was some conversation with regards to after Ahmaud's killing, that the prosecutor wasn't really being upfront with you. And as a result of that, the family got together and actually worked in a campaign against that prosecutor. Is that right?
Yes, that DA, I got you. That DA, she wasn't up front with her. Was started lying to us and carrying on. Yeah, because you know it was a cover up. They were trying to cover up my son's death.
And you were actually going down to the courthouse or to law enforcement almost every day trying to get information. Is that right?
Yes, sir. And they kept on lying to me. They already had lied to the mother so many times. But me and my brother, we wasn't going for it. So they would lie so much they stopped talking to us, started hiding from them when we was going down there. But these are the kind of people we got in our law enforcement. People that supposed to be serving, protecting us all. When crime go down like that, they hide from you. When you know you catch them in a bunch of lies.
Now, when you say they were lying, what were they lying about?
They kept lying. First they told my children mama that my son got caught in the house and he was scrubbing over a gun and he got killed. And it was a lie. We found out my son was out for a jog and run. They killed him in the middle of the street.
And when Ahmaud was when that happened to Ahmaud, where were you? Were you in the area?
No, I was on in Perry, Florida. I was driving a truck. I drive a truck in Perry, for a company in Perry, Florida.
Okay, and then you received a call from your sister?
No, my older brother called me.
Okay. And could you share with us, you know, what did he say? How did the call go?
It was hard for him to tell me. You know, when you were a brother, my brother was feeling the same thing I was feeling, but it was hard for him to tell me that my son got killed. And then when he finally got it out, because, you know, I had to drive 4 hours and he didn't want to tell me because he know how I feel about my attorney. He know how tight we is, my whole family. Because he didn't want nothing to happen to me, but he finally went on and told me, and I had to drive 4 hours all the way up. And it was really devastating for me that I really couldn't believe that my child had lost his life, my youngest child.
And so when you got back to Georgia, did you just come straight to your home? What did you do?
Oh, I went to work. When you lose a child and you're a dad and you love your children, I went to work. We did our investigation. We went out to the scene where he got shot at, and we did our investigation, me and my brother and my sister, my baby sister. When we did our investigation, we found out where he was shot at because we seen all the blood. They tried to cover it up, wash all the blood out the street, so we wouldn't know where he got killed at. So it was a lot of corruption and cover up one in that case. You know what I'm saying? Yep.
And so when you went out to the street and you saw the blood that was there, what happened after that? What did you then do?
Me and my brother, we went to talk to the lead investigators on the case. The investigator, he come out lying from the jump. So me and my brother, we kept on asking and stuff. We called on to all this line, and after he seen us, when we called on all this line, he started hiding for us and wouldn't even talk to us no more.
And now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
His name Detective Lowry.
Okay.
I never forget that detective there. But these are the kind of people we got investigating our
Yes.
Right.
crimes and stuff like that. They're corrupt, racist. It's just terrible. It's just terrible when your kid lose a life. Y'all with all that cover up and racist stuff and don't want to tell the parents the truth. You know, that is bad on our law enforcement. You know what I'm saying? They taking our tax dollars. We paying for their salary. And these are the kind of people we got supposed to be protecting us. And they swelled up the holy law. And these are the kind of people we got protecting us. Good Lord.
And it seemed like from what we've learned is that one of the investigators that is actually charged now, Gregory McMichaels, actually worked for the prosecutor's office and the prosecutor that was there. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's right. And he was doing some of the wrong stuff all them years and was getting away with it because he had Jackie Johnson covering up Bond. She kept covering up Bond and helping them get away with all that corruption. So they thought they were gonna get away with killing my son. They tried to brush it up on the road, but my family wouldn't go for
it. And so there came a time when Jackson had to run again for re-election for the state's attorney there. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what did the family do? What did the Arbery's do?
Oh, we got together and people rallied around us and everybody supported us and we voted up out of there. She's supposed to have been gone a long time ago because she been caught up in a lot of corruption, but people just were scared to step up and get that lady up out of there.
Well, I want to thank you for the example that you show for the nation, that when a wrong has occurred, that you can use the power of that voting ballot, the ballot box,
yes, sir.
to overcome some of that.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's what I think that you guys demonstrated in voting that prosecutor out of office. So, I
Yes,
certainly
sir.
want to thank you for that, for what you've demonstrated there.
Yes, sir.
Now, but I know, in speaking with to Diane and to Ruby, Marcus, I know that the family did not receive any type of counseling. Was there any type of grief counseling that was offered from any of the prosecutors with regards to Ahmaud's case?
Oh, we got some today. This a young lady gave us some counseling today.
Yes, today.
That was a lot of help to us because my family, it took it pretty rough, and this thing's so devastating to my family that we found ourselves, we were snapping on each other because all of us was angry. We know how we've been raised up. We were raised up to stick together.
Yes.
We know we ain't supposed to be snapping on each other. And I know my brother and sister were angry and mad what happened to my son. You know what I'm saying? They still struggling with that because, I ain't never seen nothing like that before. I looked at stuff like that on an old movie or something like that. But something like that happened in this little small town where you chase somebody down, your daddy got a 357 man, the son got a 12-gauge shotgun. Like you're hunting an animal. I never seen nothing like that before. And you know what I'm saying? And you see your kid get shot 3 times because with that racial hate, that's not what racial hate crime. That's racial hate. I don't care how they look at it. Oh Lord. I never seen nothing like that, but on a movie. I never know this little town had all that hate in it like that. But it's been going on a long time, but God just done put it all up out the hat. Our people have been behind the 8 ball for years. It's been going on 400 years because they've been undercover with it. It's still going on, but they're doing it in a different form of way. They're coming in all different ways now. They're on your police force. They're on your judge chamber. They're on your doggone doctor office. They just everywhere, anywhere they can keep, they put on an African American name. And it's just time out for that. You got to realize we human beings too.
Now, Mr. Arbery, Marcus, you indicated that Ahmaud was shot 3 times. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what most people see when they look at the film, they only see one thing that occurred. But wasn't there something about his cell phone being found someplace else? Was it found by a pond or anything?
No.
Okay. Okay. And so, Barbara, did you have a question?
Yes. First of all, Marcus, you're one of the bravest, most amazing men I met.
Thank
just thank you for, without you, there would be no story here. They would have swept this underneath the rug.
Right.
And we would not have known that we needed to protect our babies more. We would
Yes.
have known that,
Yes.
like you said, this hate was out there and that this corruption that had been going on for so long would never been swept away.
Yes.
For now, I just want you to, I just hope that, who else is in the house with you right now?
My brothers and sisters. And
Kim, the next to the third to the oldest.
Yeah, that's Kim.
Second to the just Kim, yeah. Hey.
Can we see you for a minute? There you go.
Hi.
Again. And who else is there?
My older sister Yvonne and Ruby.
Hey, Yvonne, Ruby, can you come so we can see you?
Go right here. Wait, market.
Hey.
This way, there.
Hi.
Hey, Miss Barbara.
Great to see you.
Yes. How y'all doing tonight?
Yes, we are happy because we're here with you. There's
Thank
no
you.
place to be but with you tonight.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
We want you.
Go other sister.
Yes, come on.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
So good to see
the
you.
brother.
Come on. Another brother. We got another brother.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Hi. And we're talking,
All right.
and we're talking to Mr.
William.
Mr. William. Hi, Mr. William.
All right, how you doing?
We're doing okay. Our hearts are with you today. This is
Thank
a
you.
day for the nation.
Thank you.
We're glad that we can be here with you and to let you know that we're loving on you.
Thank you.
Loving on the whole family. I hope you can feel it.
We feel it.
All right now.
We feel it. Thank you and God bless.
Amen. Thank you and your family. You are a model to the nation for how families come together and have love. And we're just so grateful for you. Mr. Marcus, Mr. Marcus.
Yes, ma'am.
There is no way to thank you enough, sir.
Thank you.
When that trial happens, don't worry, we'll be there.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
I will move to Brunswick for that entire trial.
I hear you. All right. We need more people like you that
We got,
ain't scared to stand up for what you believe in and what is right.
yes.
Because we've been living in stuff, doing us wrong for so long that people scared to step up for what is right.
Lord.
I'm telling you, you can't beat round right.
Well,
Right gonna always win. Always.
Daryl's been on both sides. He's been a former prosecutor and he is a criminal defense lawyer, and
All right.
he's going to be there too, right, Daryl?
oh, absolutely, absolutely. And like I said, shoulder to shoulder, man.
Yes.
Mr. Arbery, I told your sisters, Diane and Ruby, that once you enter that friendship circle with us, you're in it. You can't get out. We're there.
All right.
We're going to
That's
be there
how I
with
am.
you. There's
That's
no
how I
shaking
am.
us. There's no shaking us.
All right, bro. I'm the same way. I'm your friend to the end till you stab me in my back and then I don't fool with you no more.
All right.
Well,
Now,
yeah,
Keep it real.
yeah, we ain't gonna have that issue.
All right. All right. Well, you in there then.
so Mr. Marcus, you're talking to your family, Kim Foxx from Chicago.
All right, bro. All right. You my son. And you my brother.
Diane Wilkerson from Boston, that's your family.
All right.
To Todd Yeary from Baltimore, that's your family.
All right. All right.
You got family and you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people watching tonight. That's your family.
All right.
We're not gonna abandon you. We're gonna be there until justice is won.
Yes, sir. All right. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
And I can think of no better way to demonstrate our love for the Arbery family than through song. And we have Latasha Brown, who's after Diane Wilkerson speaks.
Right back. I'm on Zoom right now. I'll call you back.
After Diane Wilkerson speaks, Latasha Brown is going to bring us a musical tribute directed to the Ahmaud Arbery family. Diane?
Thank you, Daryl. I'm still, this is so much to take in one night, and I don't want to be long because There's been so much said. It's the thing about being in the middle of a program and so much has been said, and if I start, I won't stop. So I'm gonna say this. First, I want all of you who are listening and watching to get a pen. Get a pen because I want you to write something down before we're done. My name is Daryl said, my name is Diane Wilkerson. I'm actually in Boston, Massachusetts. A proud and loyal member of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition. We want to get right to it. Everything that you've heard about what we've done and plan to do,
Yes.
it's been an amazing year, but it will not work. It cannot work without your support. So if you were in church, I would have a hat right now, and I wouldn't be wearing it. I'd be walking around like this because, you know, it's serious. It is so important that you support what we do. I want to be sure that you understood what Barbara and Daryl said. When we saw the at that point 50, 60, you know, bills that were filed 2 years ago before the election of 2020. All the crazy kinds of ways that they started and tried to suppress the vote. The TJC was on it. That is our singular focus.
That's right.
Fighting voting rights suppression. Don't get me wrong. What we know is fighting voting rights suppressions often mean we have to do other stuff. They may not sound like it is right on and it fits, but what the Arbery family experience tells you that this is all direct. This is all connected. Voting rights. I couldn't even think, Barbara and Daryl, and you might have some other memory of a situation where a family responding to the many killings of Black men and women by law enforcement actually go to work to get rid of the prosecutor before the trial even starts. That's our connection. Barbara Arnwine said early on, there are 61 ways. You go on our website, 61 ways to suppress the vote, right? Yes. And to me, I always say, but there's only one way to fight it. One way to beat it, and that's to fight. And how we fight is with your support. So when I said get your pen, that's because I want to tell you that tjcoalition.org, that is our website. That is where I'm asking you to go tonight. There's no amount too small, and we would welcome as big an amount as you could write, but we have to be able to underwrite this work that we're doing. When Barbara and Daryl decided we had to go to Georgia, because after all was said and done in November 2020, who knew, right? Not just one more state to go, but the significance of that state was that the people in Georgia, the Arbery's, the Rashad Brooks families of the world were holding our democracy in their hand, and we went to work. But what that meant is Barbara and Daryl literally packed up from Maryland and relocated to Georgia. That's how she accidentally, on purpose, in the direction and under the hands of God, bumped into the Arbery family in Brunswick. That was all God's work. Yeah. And if you would like, and I know if you want to support us to continue to be able to do God's work, we need you to make that contribution. We have to. This is how this is no like, oh, they are on $1 million salaries. No, we raise the money to pay for the work that we need to do. So tjcoalition.org, you go on that website and push that donate button. If you don't do it tonight, do it tomorrow, but do it and pass it on to your friends and ask them to do the same. Daryl talked about family. So we want to make sure you understand that the Arbery family is doing the same thing, and we're going to support them. So we're not selfish. We know that when one person's okay, we're all okay. But when one person's not okay, none of us are okay. So they have a foundation, the 223 foundation.org, the 223foundation.org. And they raise money to support and continue the work and the life of Ahmaud Arbery. And that 223 is February 23rd. because it was 1 year ago today that the world changed for them. And they were plucked from anonymity into a national spotlight, an international spotlight. The worst. They call it a club. It's the club no parent wants to be in. So when my grandson, I talked to him about, you saw Kingston talking earlier, when I asked him what he knew about Ahmaud Arbery, he said to me, Grandma, you don't know? I ran 2.23 miles on his birthday on May 8th. I said, well, who organized that? He said, nobody. I knew it was his birthday, and I asked my mom to take me to the park. And he pulls out a picture on his phone and showed me 2.23 miles. If they can do it, we can do it. If we can do it, you can do it. So I want you to think about this, and seriously, and I want you to give. And the last thing I'll say, because I can't wait to hear the next presentation, is I want you to think about it like this, because you're home. You don't even have to leave your house. But I always used to tell people in politics, donate that money you would have used for the new pair of shoes. Donate that money for that movie you would have ordered on Netflix or HBO Max or something next week. Donate that. Give that to a purpose that is going to continue to be there. We now know that there are 3 times as many bills to suppress the vote already. They're plotting all over the country to stop the Arbery family from ever being able to do what they did. They have figured out the problem with politics is that there are too many Black people voting. It's just that simple. And TJC's commitment is to make sure that we continue to honor the work of John Lewis, or honor the work of the lives of the people who have sacrificed, so that you can continue, I can continue to vote. So again, tjcoalition.org. Go on, you'll see, it's very simple. Donate. 223foundation.org for the Arbery family. Donate, split, whatever you have to do. We're not selfish because we're all on that same mission. And so give. I thank you, Arbery family. I thank you, Daryl and Barbara, for your incredible leadership, and more important, your direction, because I have a feeling we're going to be busy over the next 12 to 24 months. Support that work, people. tjcoalition.org, 223foundation.org. Thank you, and let's get on with this program.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you so much. And I do hope that our viewers will support the 223foundation.org, as well as the work of the Transformative Justice Coalition. When I was down in Georgia, for the election, the runoff election, as I think Diane said that I lived down there, and that's pretty accurate, for that entire period of the runoff election. I had the opportunity to come across someone, and Barbara Arnwine said, well, when you meet this sister, you're going to think that you've met a soulmate because you're all just alike. Right? I was like, I couldn't imagine anybody being, as forthright and determinative as I am. And then I came across LaTosha Brown. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, she is everything that Barbara had described. She has no problem kicking off her heels and getting down to business, pulling off the earrings, putting on some Vaseline on her nose or whatever she got to do. If she's going to be in a fight, she's going to say, let's make it a bare knuckle fight. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce the co-founder of Black Voters Matter to bring us a musical tribute in honor of Ahmaud Arbery. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss LaTosha Brown.
Thank you so much, brother. I want to just take a moment. I was so moved. I'm glad that there was some space. I needed some space. I wanted to tell the Arbery family just to know how there's so many of us that have been praying and standing in the gap and really wanting to, however we could, like literally stand in the space with you, that you are not alone. And I am, Daddy Arbery, I am just so moved by you and your family. Even to see you all in the room with each other right now gives me so much joy. Like, that's our power, y'all. It don't matter what kind, they come up with as many races, legislation if they want to. They can come up with as many laws as they want to. They have never been able to defeat God's children. And so we have to literally tap into who we are, the power of our family, the power of our vision, the power of our voice, that when we have nothing else, like when we couldn't do nothing but sit on the moaning bench and just sing, we did that and we broke free, right? When we couldn't even actually tell our pain, we were in cotton fields right here down in the deep South in Alabama and Georgia and Mississippi and Louisiana, right? And we knew who we were singing to. We knew who we had a word to. And so in that spirit, I just want to do a short tribute to let you know just how that the family how much you all have literally inspired us, that you have set and lit a fire under us to do more. We got to do more, family. We got to be in this space that this life shall not go in vain, that we will hold them accountable, just as Barbara said. And before I give the tribute, I also want to offer my organization, Black Voters Matter and Black Voters Matter Capacity Building Institute. I think that we've actually provided some support in that area. And I want to say that we are also committed to continuing to support the effort to bring about justice. So in that space and in that spirit, I want to just get centered in terms of where I draw strength from. And as I think about the spaces of my grandmother and the songs that she gave to me. And so I hope this tribute, that you receive it from the love in which it is meant. Walk with me, Lord. Why don't you walk with me? Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. All along this tedious journey, I want Jesus just to walk with me. Be my friend, Lord. Won't you be my friend? Be my friend, Lord. Be my friend. All along this tedious journey, I want Jesus just to walk with me. When we didn't know who else to call on, when we didn't have government, when we didn't have the DA, when we didn't have lawyers, what we could is we could call on our faith, we could call on our belief and ask God to walk with us. And in that same space, in what we are going through right now, is another song that it reminds me of. I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. Oh Lord, I know I've been changed. You know the angels in heaven done sign my name. Oh Lord, I know I've been changed. I know I've been changed. Oh Lord, I know I've been changed. You know the angels in heaven done sign my name. You know, this incident, while we're seeing, and I know that it has been hard for the family, it has changed all of us. It has brought us to our consciousness. It has brought us to a space to know that we've got to look out and fight for each other. Your family has given us courage, that we're seeing what you've experienced and what you're going through. And I just want to say thank you. And the last and the final share is a song that I do think that in this moment, this is how you all inspire me. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom's land. Ain't gonna let racism turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let racism turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom's land. Amen, amen. Ain't nobody gonna turn us around, and there shall be no peace unless we have justice. No justice, no peace. Thank you. Ain't nobody gonna turn us around. Amen.
Latasha Brown, everyone. Latasha Brown. Thank you so much, Latasha. People think that all Latasha can do is turn out millions of votes. What you just learned is that she can turn out millions of souls as well, because she's a God-fearing woman. Thank you so much, Latasha Brown, and Black Voters Matters, for all you do and all that you mean. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, at this point, we've heard a lot. We've heard from a prosecutor about what it means to have African-American prosecutors and prosecutors of color in America. We've heard from a member of Congress talking about the importance of raising yourself up, of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. We've heard from the family of Ahmaud Arbery expressing to people the importance of being able to pick yourself up, address issues in the ballot box, and get out there and vote. We've heard from Ms. Latasha Brown, given the message, I think she called it from the cotton field all the way through to today, and not letting anyone to turn us around. Now we have to close this out, Dr. Rashawn Ray. Dr. Rashawn Ray is a professor of sociology over at the University of Maryland at College Park. I won't say because it's the best university in the world that I attended, that it's the best university, but it is. And we're really welcoming and very happy to have Dr. Ray with us this evening. He's a fellow at the Brookings Institute, professor. He's numerous columns. Every time I seem to look up in one of the magazines and news columns, there's something there from Dr. Ray. So, you know, Dr. Ray, welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. Question for you. I want to jump right into the pot here. You know, you've been with us this entire evening. You've heard all of this that has come from the sociological perspective of African Americans that have experienced, and people of color that have experienced all that we have experienced in dealing with this criminal justice system. Can you give us some wisdom from all that you've heard tonight, from all the pieces that have been put in place?
I mean, with Daryl, I mean, first, it's just so great to be with you and Barbara and everyone else. I mean, just listening to Mr. Arbery, I mean, it's something from a personal standpoint that's pretty overwhelming, from the standpoint that I have two sons. I have two boys that are 9 and 10 years old. And I reflect on what President Biden said today, where he essentially said, you know, it's difficult to think about the fact that a Black man cannot go for a run in America. Like, Black men should not have to necessarily fear that or think about that, but we know that they do. And my research has highlighted this for a decade, where I found what people are now calling an Ahmaud Arbery effect, where the research that I was doing on physical activity highlighted that Black men were significantly less likely to be physically active in predominantly white neighborhoods. The sort of things that that Ahmaud encountered: being profiled, being chased, being accosted, and then unfortunately being murdered. So when I think about Ahmaud Arbery, part of what happens with that tragic incident is that it's emblematic of the research that I've conducted and that we know that happens to Black people. I also think about growing up in Georgia. I'm originally from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but grew up in Stone Mountain in Atlanta, and very familiar with the way things operate in the South. But we have to be very clear that this isn't just a Southern thing. This happens in the Midwest, this happens in the West, it happens in the Mid-Atlantic, and it happens on the East Coast. So, I mean, as we reflect on everything that we've heard, I mean, there are a series of things that we have to double down on. And we've heard this repeatedly. First thing, we need to have the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed by Congress. That is the most transformative piece of legislation that we have right now on policing. And we know that the McMichaels are highly connected to law enforcement, as we heard from Mr. Arbery, and as others know. We also know that we have to ensure that we get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. because that's going to prevent the gerrymandering. That's going to prevent the voter suppression that's happening from Georgia to Michigan to Pennsylvania to Illinois, trying to prevent Black people from having the right to vote. So, I mean, it's a lot of things that we have to do, but what you all were able to do with bringing everyone together tonight to honor Ahmaud Arbery's life, it definitely did that. And I mean, look, what we just heard, I mean, was a celebration. And I don't think that him and his family would have it any other way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ray. Barbara? You're on mute, Barbara.
Dr. Ray, you know, you have not just been there, you know, just in the academic towers. You've been, you know, with the Black Lives Matters movement. You have been just inspiring young folks and activists all over the nation. You know, what do you want to say, you know, to people about what we should be doing right this moment? Congress got to pass those bills, and people got to what? Pressure Congress, right? And what else do people need to be doing right now to make sure that we are able to turn this monster around?
Well, look, I mean, I think we have to first keep applying the pressure and keep speaking out, because our silence is our acceptance. So, I mean, we really have to get behind prosecutors like Kim Foxx, like my prosecutor in Prince George's County, like the people who are doing the work. And we have to also not just tackle what's happening at the federal level, we have to really tackle state legislatures. That's where a lot of the decisions are made at the state level. We have to get involved with the judicial affairs committees, whatever they're called in your state. It's something about judicial something. And part of dealing with that committee is that figure out who's on it. You need to hold them to the fire. You need to ensure that they're passing legislation that holds police officers accountable for their treatment of us. We need to also ensure that we can strengthen hate crime laws, because we know that hate crime laws are really poor, particularly in the state of Georgia, where those Confederate generals still sit and stand on that Stone Mountain where I used to go as a kid and watch these laser light shows. So part of what we have to do is continuously apply pressure and not be silent. We also have to ensure that when in this era of this sort of massive white vigilante anti-Black racism, part of what we have to do is to ensure that those individuals are held accountable. We need to keep exposing them. So, for example, what just happened yesterday where those 3 Black men, young men, were killed just at a gas station, murdered by a white vigilante. Like, these are the sort of things that are happening every single day. We know these particular incidents are continuing to occur. But what we also have to do, and we have to be very clear, similar to how it's men's responsibility to end sexism and patriarchy, it's white people's responsibility to end racism that exists in our country. White supremacy ideology, like we saw when people stormed the US Capitol last month. So part of what that means is when we're at work, we need to ensure that we employ people to become what I call racial equity advocates and racial equity brokers. That's speaking up and speaking out for people who are not there to speak up for themselves. Yes. And oftentimes these conversations and these ideologies are starting at dinner tables where people like us are not at dinner tables with our white colleagues who we work at, who don't check when one of their relatives or their kids says something racist, who don't check one of their parents or their uncles when they say something racist. Their silence becomes their acceptance. And anytime your silence leads to someone else's oppression, then you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And of course, we have to actively aim to change the rules, laws, regulations, and policies that exist to ensure that not only we don't roll back the progress that's been made, but to ensure that we can move toward a more racially equitable future.
Yeah, and lastly, Dr. Ray, you know, this is I indicated to most people, a very unique opportunity for you to be able to speak directly to Marcus Arbery, the father of Ahmaud Arbery, Black man to Black man, person to person, and to simply, you know, express, you know, your love for the family, your respect for what he's done. In that vein, is there anything that you'd like to share with Marcus Arbery and the Arbery family?
You know, I mean, it's so much that I could say. I mean, when I think about Ahmaud losing his life and what you all are having to go through, I mean, as a parent, that's something no one should ever have to think about.
Never.
And when we think about what it means to become a hashtag today,
Oh, Lord.
that's something that parents never want to see
Wow.
have happen to their children.
Mm.
And I think about how your son represents so many of us as a Black man in America being profiled. I mean, look, I turned 40 recently and I had the revelation that I've been stopped more times by the police than my age.
My Lord.
Doesn't matter if you have a PhD, doesn't matter whether or not you have a criminal record or not. Your Black skin is oftentimes what leads to your discrimination. And part of what we have to realize is we cannot outclass racism. So it doesn't matter what kind of degree we have, doesn't matter what we've accomplished in life. And when I look at Ahmaud, I see my boys. I see the work that we have to do, the work that Mr. Arbery, that you and your family shouldn't have to do. But we're going to be right here with you, plugging away, no matter where we are, whether that's in Georgia, whether that's in the DC area, whether that's in Illinois, whether that's in Massachusetts, whether that's in Missouri, all the places where we are. We're going to continue to fight for justice. And anything that you all need from me, and I'm sure anyone else on here, you can best believe that we'll deliver on that promise. Because this is the thing. Today is W.B. Du Bois's birthday. Most people know who Du Bois is. The first African-American to get a PhD from Harvard, happens to be a sociologist, also happens to be an alpha. And part of thinking through that is he said that the problem of the 20th century is the problem of the color line. Here we are in the 21st century, and that statement continues to be profound. The problem of the 21st century is the problem of the color line. And his research continues to be prophetic. So to the Arbery family, I mean, I just send out my condolences. I'm so sorry that you all are going through this. I mean, I really can't imagine. And of course, for all of us on here who have kids, particularly Black boys, it comes to a point where you have to realize that no matter what you do, you cannot protect them from racism. And that is something that we all have to work toward to ensure that a Black kid, a Black man going for a run down the street does not end up having his family be on an event 1 year after his death, talking about the importance of still trying to get justice in an area where we know that they really tried to cover it up. And so I just send out my condolences to the family and look forward to doing everything that we can to help you all out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ray. Thank you for being here and for all that you do for the community at large. And again, I want to encourage and thank all of our donors that have donated for this program and toward the cause that we're working for with the Transformative Justice Coalition, as well as those donors that are donating to the 223foundation.org, 223foundation.org, as well as the Transformative Justice Coalition. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. We are able to go down in Georgia and fight. We're able to go to Mississippi, and we're able to go down to where we are needed to try to register people to vote because of those donations that people provide. We're able to go and encourage Pennsylvania. Tell me if I'm wrong here, Barbara. Tell Pennsylvania you need to have a drop box to let people be able to vote. Pennsylvania didn't have a drop box for Barbara Arnwine went there and told everybody this is what you need. And as a result, I'm telling you, we're so proud of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia in particular, where 93% of the eligible Black population was registered to vote. 93%, folks. That's the work. That's the work. That's what we do. But I want to thank our host committee for all that they've done and helping us put this together. They've just been remarkable. They've been meeting timelessly. I'm hopeful that the program that we've attempted to put together met the expectations of the Arbery family. We've tried so hard to be certain that they would be proud of what we've tried to do for them, and we're hopeful that we were able to do that. And I'm going to ask Barbara Arnwine if she'd like to make some closing remarks. Barbara?
I'm not going to compete with the president. He's going to be starting soon for the SOTU. But guess what? We just had the State of the Union, didn't we? We just had the State of the Union also. So I just want to say again to Marcus Arbery, to all the family, to William, to Kim, to Ruby, to Diane, to all the family, to everybody, even the kids, I mean, just everyone. We want to make sure that you know we got you. This isn't the end of the line. We will be calling you tomorrow. We will be with you next week. We'll be with you forever throughout this, because this is part of the eternal love that God has given us. And that's it. That's all I got to say. Thank you, everybody, for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Barbara. And I'm going to call on Reverend Todd Yeary to close us out in prayer. Reverend Yeary.
To you, Daryl Jones, and to Barbara Arnwine, and to all of my sisters from other misters, brothers from other mothers, to my little brother, Rashawn Ray, who just kind of laid it out, to Latasha Brown, who plays too much because she channeled the aura and the fire of the ancestors to remind us that we have come this far by faith and also by walking through the fire. To the Arbery family, we are siblings of the soul. I was born in Augusta, and as I saw Marcus and Ruby and Diane and William all come to the camera, all I can say is y'all don't look nothing alike. I don't know what's going on there, but y'all got something going on. We are grateful to be able to walk with you in sacred space on today. This is an important marker. But Marcus said something interesting, that they tried to cover up his son's murder. And I felt a quickening in that moment because we've heard that story before. There was another public execution devoid of government intervention that the government tried to hide that happened in broad daylight, where they didn't want anybody to be able to return to the scene to recognize that there was still blood in the ground. And they tried to cover it up, so much so that if you went to the place where the body was held, they put a stone over it and a guard outside the entrance. What we find out, though, is that we who have had to endure the cover-up serve the God of the raise-up.
Come on now.
Because resurrection flows through our veins. And so there is a hymn poem that starts, God of grace and God of glory, on thy people pour thy power. While we gather virtually, physically distanced, the God of the universe has brought us together, connected heart to heart in real time. And so we serve a God of the raise up, even while they were going, knowing that there was an obstacle between them and their duty on that Sunday morning. They kept on walking. They didn't know who was going to move the stone. They didn't know how the stone was going to be rolled away. What they knew was they were on a mission. And so I would suggest that we have been called tonight to get back to mission work.
Yes.
We have sung the songs, we have prayed the prayers, we've heard the inspiration, we have gotten the information necessary to be very key on what our destination is, and we don't stop until we get to that place called justice. And so here's what I pray for you. May you receive the grace of God in abundance, that you'll see the glory of God in your service. May you feel the power of God course your veins, heal your heart, strengthen your resolve, and reward your faithfulness. We have shared this space at the invitation of our host and the Arbery family. Now our obligation is to return to the battlefield, where we would often sing, and if Latasha, I'd have you do a remix. We promised him that we would serve him. I promised him that I would serve him till I die. I'm on the battlefield for my Lord. Thank you, God, for tonight. Now we pray that our hearts have been encouraged, our minds have been renewed, our determination strengthened, and our minds stayed on you. And may your grace, your peace, your power, and your presence keep us on this journey till we reach the land called justice. Amen, Ashe, and good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining the Transformative Justice Coalition for this presentation. Thank you to the Ahmaud Arbery family, and our heart is always with you. Our phone is always on, and we will take your call whenever it is needed. Call us, do not hesitate. As you heard in the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, the flag is drenched in our blood. It is our flag. It belongs to all of us. As they said, get involved. Join a local political club. Join the NAACP. Join the Rainbow Push Coalition. Join the Georgia Coalition for the People's Agenda. Join Black Voters Matter. Join TJC. But by all admission, but by all accounts, get involved. Get involved. We need you. We need, the community needs you. This is not a spectator sport. This is hands-on. We need you. Get back to the mission. The enemy ain't letting up. Looking forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you so much. Good night.
And Daryl, thank you to all our wonderful guests and participants.
Absolutely.
Our Arbery speaker, thank you.